The Senate and House are expected to pass a bipartisan spending bill today to fund the government and allocate about $1.4 billion for border security fencing. White House officials tell CNN President Trump is expected to sign the bill, even though it does not give any money for a wall per se, and it's much less money than he'd been calling for before. Joining us now is Republican Senator Shelley Moore Capito. She was one of 17 lawmakers selected to negotiate a bipartisan deal. Congratulations on producing something in a moment of bipartisanship. I think we should always note that in this day and age. Make your best case to your colleagues, some of whom may be on the fence here, no pun intended, that this is a deal worth supporting.
Well, I think first in terms of the wall, I think it's significant. It's 55 new miles of wall. It's the most new miles of wall that the Border Patrol has ever gotten in any kind of appropriations. It's a great down payment for the president's longer-term plan. But it also has, I think, significant resources for more border agents and also more customs agents, which are important in terms of, securing the border, along with massive increases in technology. So I see it as a three-legged stool. I think it definitely provides the border security. And I think that we should move forward with this because it puts us on a track for significant improvements.
Now, you keep calling it a wall. In fact, the legislation itself here specifically says it can't be a concrete wall, or I believe the steel slats the president was calling for, but it can be fencing. Does that matter?
I would like to correct there. I do believe it can be the steel slats that the president talks about, because that is actually the design that's preferred by the CBP. We've been making the argument all along that we need to let the professionals tell us what the design is better. So in my view, it's semantics on fencing wall. It's a preventive barrier, and that's the significant issue here.
So this is where we are, about $1.4 billion. There was about $1.6 billion on the table for border security in December, and then the president decided to move toward the government shutdown for 35 days. Republican Congressman Chris Stewart of Utah had this to say about the impact of the shutdown. Listen.
In hindsight, it didn't help us. You just have to ignore reality to say anything different. It didn't help us. The deal we ended up with now is worse than we had before the shutdown.
It didn't help us. The deal that we have is worse than the one before the shutdown. Your response?
Well, I would make the case in any whoever the president is, in any environment, a government shutdown is never going to help. It hurts people. It erodes the faith and trust of our constituents and our ability to get our job done and for the president to lead. So maybe burned once here badly, I believe, led us to, I think, a very good compromise that, again, gives the president the ability to move forward with the plan that the professionals have told us they want and need at the border.
So the president has made the case that he will find additional money from somewhere. Do you know where he's speaking of?
Well, I think, from all reports, I think what he's looking at is some money within the Department of Defense that deals with the ability to create fencing to slow the flow of narcotics. We know that narcotics are coming across the border. I'm from West Virginia. The flow of fentanyl and heroin is very, very harmful to our region and certainly our entire country. I think that is one of the things he's looking at. I think also I don't know if he's going to try to make the case that there are other national security issues involved here. I think we'll have to let him make those decisions as we move forward.
Just one point, and I know you know this because I've heard you speak about this. Most of the drugs come through the legal ports of entry, not something that would necessarily be affected for the wall. I will say there is much more money for the legal ports of entry and maybe new technology that would prevent the drugs coming in through those legal ports of entry. So I know there are people on both sides of the aisle who think that is a positive. In terms of the possibility of declaring a national emergency, maybe the president can get more money without doing so. If, though, he declared an emergency, is that something you would support?
Well, I think he needs to tread lightly here. I think he's gotten a fair amount of pushback here on Capitol Hill about the precedent that would be set if he were to declare a national emergency. Not so much in the way he would frame it in terms of our national security here with the immigration issue. However, what could be, characterized as a national emergency in the future. I mean, I put myself in that category, but I do put myself in the category of realizing that we have an ever-growing problem here that we need to get a handle on. And I would say, in terms of the drugs, they just had a drug bust away from the port of entry of over 800 pounds of heroin. That's pretty significant.
It is. It's a huge bust. Again, that was at a legal port of entry, and I think the bust was
not
that one. We're not talking about the one the president was talking about the other day. Okay.
Yeah.
But again, as I was saying before, most of the drugs do come through the legal ports of entry. The House voted.
Oh, right.
The House voted yesterday to end support for the Saudi and U.S. support for the Saudi war in Yemen. This is a vote that will likely come before the Senate and soon. How will you vote on that?
Well, we had a similar vote in December in the Senate, and I believe that, I voted against it. I think that we need to give respect and due diligence to our military to make those decisions. I believe that we have that the military has shrunk the presence of their from the refueling. They're no longer refueling, et cetera. I do believe that there is a humanitarian crisis going on here in Yemen, and I think that we need to be as diligent as we are all around the world to try to disrupt the massive loss of life that's occurring there.
Senator Capito from West Virginia, thank you for being with us. Thanks for the work that you did behind closed doors here. I know that working out a bipartisan deal in this environment isn't the easiest thing, but you guys produced something that both chambers will vote on today.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
I'm very pleased with it. Thank you.
Thanks.